Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk we deal with political, social, and economics. Here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Paget Maynard.
We got a whole bunch of stuff to cover, but I want to talk a little bit about from 64 on, a little bit before 64 and then after 64 and what we see now. Before 64, 11 or 13 of those states, blacks couldn't even vote. They'd go stand in the line all day, waiting to vote and couldn't vote. And now we see blacks in all these different positions and everything. So at the same time, though, we see a lot of blacks out here still won't vote. We had people died, was beaten, and all of these things, and still we got blacks won't vote. What do you think about it?
I think it's a civic responsibility to vote. I've raised my children to vote, and I vote enthusiastically. My parents taught me the same thing. I taught my children that it's important to vote. However, I do understand the position of the demographics that choose not to participate in the franchise because they see it for the sham it is in some locations with the voter suppression and disenfranchisement and just endemic discouraging of people to exercise their franchise and vote. And also the outcomes. You vote for a political party that makes promises, and for the majority of the demographics that don't participate in the franchise, they don't see the results that they would want. So on the one hand, I understand their apathy and even their reticence to participate. On the other hand, I think they still should be aware of the damage they do to their overall ambitions by not participating, because but for a few thousand votes, irrespective of what the Russians did in Chamber Analytica and other malfeasance, we would have had a Democrat in office in 2016. We wouldn't be looking at Kavanaugh. We wouldn't be looking at some of these retrograde activities that the GOP is making, and we'd be in a much better position today than we are now under Agent Orange as president. So yeah, we need to vote, but I get why sometimes people don't.
What do you say, Pat?
The fact that so many people have put out so much effort in order to be able to vote. I don't know if you heard Oprah the other day in Atlanta, and she talked about this gentleman. First opportunity to vote, he got dressed, got out to the polling station. They said, "Boy, you're at the wrong place. You need to go such and such. He went there. Boy, you're at the wrong place. You need to go such and such. And this man walking for miles. Went there. Finally, he got to this last place he was supposed to go to. Boy, you're too late. The polling closed. So after walking all these miles, he still didn't get to vote. Next time around election, he was unable to vote because he died before election. So people put out, I mean, here's a man putting out so much effort, walking all these many miles just to vote. Couldn't vote. Today, we have great opportunity to go out and vote. Why are we not using the opportunity?
Well, I see what Dennis is saying, but I guess, I guess for me, and it goes back to if you were little, when you were little, when you was 6, 7, 8 years old, you told your kids, you talked to your kids about voting. So I can see both sides of it, but the people who don't talk to their kids about voting, I guess that's the anger coming in me,
Yeah, well, you have to infuse your children with the things that you value, and if you value the franchise, if you value voting, then of course you'll make that a priority in what you teach your children. And I think it's also our responsibility to teach the children about the value of the franchise, because the example that Padgett gave about the man who was run all over town trying to vote hasn't gone away. We see in North Dakota where Native Americans are told that they can't vote because they don't have an address on their government ID, even though they don't use addresses, they use post office boxes. We've seen in Georgia over the last several years where a couple 100,000 people have been surreptitiously taken off the voting rolls, and probably another $50,000 this voting scene. They wouldn't do that if the vote wasn't so valuable. If it's the one place where the billionaire and the broke man have the same level of power. That's why they go through all these machinations to take away your ability to exercise a franchise and vote. You see it in places in Texas where I take that back, it was in Dodge City, Kansas, where they moved a polling place completely out of the city to make it as difficult as possible for people to vote. So the effort by the conservatives, the Dixiecrats, the Confederates, they're all the same people. You always hear this stuff, you hear, I think the name of Pork Chop and Coon or Diamond and Silk or something like that, some chicks. And they're always trying to make the point, the case that we ought to vote Republican because the Republicans freed the slave. For the ignorant who don't know the history, that line works. But what we're really looking at is Southern Democrats who seceded from the Union, called themselves a Confederate, fought against the Union, lost the war, became the Dixiecrats, who fought against Reconstruction, fought against the very first civil rights bill that was passed in the 19th century. Go all the way up through the 20th century with the Dixiecrats bringing in the KKK to foster terrorism against enfranchised Africans who were exercising their franchise as Republicans because they were the party of Lincoln. All the way up through Jim Crow, you saw these same Dixiecrats using voter intimidation in the Klan and other methods to suppress black votes. All the way up until the 1960s when the second President Johnson passed the second Civil Rights Act and said we're going to lose the South for 2 generations behind this in the Voting Rights Act. He underestimated. It's been 6 generations and the South is still with the Republican Party. It's not that the Republican Party never changed. It's that the Southern Democrats, the Dixiecrats, the racist Confederate conservatives all moved over to the Republican Party as an objection to what President Lyndon Johnson did as a Democrat. they moved away from the Democrats to the welcoming arms of the Republicans, and that's where your Strom Thurmonds, your Jesse Helms, your Trent Lotts, your Jeff Sessions, that's their lineage. So whenever you have these coons like Diamond and Silk try to tell you that the Republican Party is your home, it's because they don't know their history,
Right.
because they're ignorant. And it's like telling you that the, I guess it's a bad analogy, but I'll use it anyway. It's like telling you that the LA Dodgers of 2018 are the same as the Brooklyn Dodgers of 1942 because they got the same uniform on. It's white, it says blue Dodgers with
Yeah.
red numbers. It's
Yeah.
not the same organization.
Yeah, and then as you were saying, a lot of people just don't know and just haven't read history. But for blacks, Abe Lincoln wanted the blacks to leave the country.
Oh, yeah. Well, Lincoln and the Republicans of the North, their objective was economic.
Yeah.
It was not. Let's be honest though. In the Republican Party in the North, you did have abolitionists,
Yeah.
and you did have people who thought that it was a moral stain on the country to have enslaved people.
Yeah.
And they fought tooth and nail to end slavery, and they did this as abolitionists of the North.
Yeah.
There were no Southern
Yeah.
abolitionists. I'm sorry.
No.
And they did this as members of the Republican Party. But that's not the Republican Party that we see today.
No.
It's not even
No,
close to
no,
being
it
real.
isn't.
And only Coon and Porkchop would think that. And they get a lot of ignorant Negroes and a
Yeah.
lot of ignorant, uneducated white
Yeah.
folks.
Oh, yeah.
I've had them come up to me and say, why won't you be in the Republican Party? We're the ones who freed you. Well, first of all, you ain't free a damn thing.
No.
And second of all, the Republican Party of today is not the same party
No.
of the 19th century.
No.
But you know, you mentioned it was more of an economic
Oh, absolutely.
thing rather than we want to free you.
Right.
The North wanted to cripple the South financially so they couldn't get weapons.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have the labor to produce the cotton, etc., so that they can make money. And they decided to free them, not just because we so love them, but we want to make sure the South can't get the ammunition, etc., that they needed to fight us.
Well,
And
it
that
goes
made a
beyond that.
difference.
It go before the Civil War started, even before they picked up arms. The North saw what was developing in the South, an agrarian, agricultural, economic system based on free labor,
Yeah.
Yes.
enslaved African,
Yeah.
versus the industrialized North, where they were taking all the raw material from the South, the sugar, the cotton,
Yeah.
the tobacco,
Yeah.
and producing finished goods. Well, they saw that the two economic models weren't going to work, and that the South was reaching out to France primarily, but they were also reaching out to Great Britain, and that posed a threat.
Yes.
Because if you have an industrialized white supremacist nation to the on the other side of the ocean, they could have made the South the overwhelming power and cut out the
Money.
industrial North, and the North wasn't going to have it. So Lincoln's objective was economic. It was not something that had
no.
to do with morality.
No.
Even though he used that, to your point,
Right.
as a leverage
Yeah.
to
it's-
disenfranchise.
Yeah.
It's a long time now that the Republicans use subterfuge to get the people on their side.
You're very
Well,
good
the
at it.
votes.
Well, you know, and the thing is that before the cotton, you know, it was tobacco, and but when they come up with the cotton, and then in 1797, Eli Whitney came with the gin. It's like, oh, we got something here.
Well, he got the credit for it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He's like, "What you doing, boy?"
Yeah.
Well, boss, I'd have figured
Yeah.
out a way to remove the seeds.
Yeah,
Oh, do tell.
yeah.
Let me put a patent on
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
invented it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Always, you know, it's been a long history of ripping off the black man.
Oh yeah.
So many things that the black men were involved in, blacks, the stoplights,
All that.
the
Stop sign.
intermittent wipers on your car,
Yeah,
the
wrenches.
the lubrication,
Yeah.
Barbecue.
all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, huh?
Barbecue.
Yeah.
That's African.
Yeah.
And barbecue
You know, and
it comes from an African word, babaku,
Yeah.
which is what they used to take meat and roasted in embers and coals.
Yeah.
Right.
And they called it barbecue, became barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dances, the music, all the music, all
Yeah.
the pop music, it comes from Africans.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the thing is that,
Even country and western
oh yeah,
comes from Africa.
yeah.
Hockey
Mhm.
was invented by blacks in Nova Scotia,
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah.
All
And,
right.
and if you look at it now, when you look at you look at these dances and everything, these country and western, but you know what? Blacks were the first to be, ride the horses and everything, and when they was headed to California, in places like from here to California, like in these different places from here to California, blacks was there on their way to California, and they were breaking those horses and everything.
Well, black cowboys,
Yeah. Yeah.
were a very big
Yeah.
percentage of the total
Yeah.
cowboy
Okay.
market.
Yeah.
Been whitewashed out of history.
Yeah, yeah. Now you think, oh, it's white guys, white thing, but no, but
Just like calculus and trigonometry
Yeah.
and history and medicine and law, all developed in the Nile Valley. That knowledge which supersedes what we have today has been written out of history because the history that we're taught depends on the narrative, the myth of white supremacy. Europeans invented this. Europeans discovered this
yeah.
first.
Oh yeah.
But for the European, the world would still be in darkness and primitive. Well, primitive isn't a bad word. Primitive means prime. It
Yeah,
means
yeah,
first.
yeah.
And I would not mind seeing some primitive cultures take back over because what we see now is constant war,
Yeah.
constant destruction,
Yeah.
constant pollution, constant suppression of humanity.
Yeah.
All the name of profits. And it's going to end life on the planet if we don't get this thing straightened
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. You were saying
And
about it.
sooner rather than later.
Mhm.
Yesterday.
Yeah. I hate to go into it before before we know something, but let's kind of jump on it in a kind of. I'm not going to predict. I'll let y'all predict what we're going to do here in this in this
Tomorrow?
week. Yeah, tomorrow.
Well, it's
Let's
November 5th.
Let's start first with Michigan.
Well, Stabenow is going to win. I think we'll see a Democratic wave. I don't know if it's going to be a tsunami, but we'll see some progress on the Democratic ticket here statewide. The governorship certainly going to be a Democrat. I think we'll do fine here in the state. I think nationwide, looking at some polls just this morning, like Quinnipiac, which has Gillum up 7 points in Florida. We see that Abrams in Georgia up this morning by 3 points, where she was in a virtual
Right.
tie just the other day. We see Beto O'Rourke in Texas moving up to within 3, where he was down by 7 as much as a few days ago. Now these, again, when you look at these polls, it doesn't matter if it's Quinnipiac or Reuters or Fox News, well, they pull it out of their behind, so that's a bad example. But any of these polls look at likely voters, people who typically vote, who have voted in the past, or are measured as passionate about the vote, and they're reachable, because most of these polls are done with landline phone lines. Well, what Beto O'Rourke, Abrams in Georgia, Gillum in Florida, and progressives all over the country are relying on in 18 is not your typical reliable repeat voter. They're looking for people who haven't voted before,
Amen.
people who don't have landlines.
Right.
They're not being interviewed by these pollsters.
Right.
So I think these leads that you're seeing among the progressives, I'm not saying all Democrats, I'm saying among the
Well, yeah,
progressive
yeah,
candidates, is always going to be a little bit attenuated, because you're going to have a lot of people who just weren't questioned about their intentions in this poll and have never voted before, but they're newly motivated by a variety of things, including the fact that we have a Russian agent in the White House. So I think you're going to see a House that goes to the Democrats, probably a tsunami where we have pick up as many as 24, 26 seats and control the House. The Senate, that's going to be a hard pull, but you're still seeing people who you thought as Democrats may lose their opportunities. The senator from Missouri, the senator in North Dakota, they're starting to pull up and increase their leads too. So I think the House is a certainty. The Senate may be a coin flip for the Democrats.
You were saying, Patrick?
Yeah, Dennis is right. And we're going to see, in fact, maybe more than a 23, 24. One prediction is maybe up in the 40s.
That's right. I've seen
that.
That.
They'll pick up in the House.
Well,
in the Senate, now Cruz in Iraq, it's getting closer. But then, like Dennis was saying, a lot of the people that he is reaching may not be reached by the pollsters, because typically they're on the cell phone. And you have all those students who are going for him. Don't forget, he's right at the border. A lot of those Hispanics are going his way, in as much as Cruz is supposed to be a Hispanic. I wouldn't call him one. He's supposed to be one.
Yeah, well.
And we are going to have some surprises. Haskell, she is showing better. She was down, now she's in the lead. Then Idaho, North Dakota, and of course, look what they're doing to the natives, that they can't vote. Dennis touched it earlier, because they don't have a physical address. They use a box. Then they have to remember, the indigenous peoples were supposed to be sovereign nations. So in our own sphere, this is how we do it. Don't you forget that the elections, the voting process was, instead of the federal government supervising the whole thing, they let it to the states. Now, if they are sovereign, then they should do it their way. So then nobody should be disputing their legitimacy to come with this kind of ID.
And nobody should have exact match either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget down Dodge City.
Yeah.
You can't but think of Matt Dillon.
Yeah.
Get out of Dodge.
Yeah, they
and they took it right out of Dodge. And the amazing thing is, the civic center that they normally use, the excuse was construction.
Yeah.
Did you see that shot the other day where no construction on the building?
No,
the construction is over yonder.
They use it this weekend and they use it 2 days after the election. There's no reason why they can't use it.
No.
The people who say they love red, white, and blue democracy and all that, they don't.
No.
You don't love democracy.
Yeah,
you love power.
Piece of democracy.
Yeah, you love power.
Yeah.
Just say that.
No.
You want to run things.
Yeah.
And you don't want the people that you have disrespect and hatred for to have the franchise to vote you out of office.
No.
Just say that, and I have more respect for you.
Yeah, and the thing is that when we look at what is it, Georgia? This clown, and now he come up, yesterday?
Yes.
The day before, with some kind of junk on, the Democrats
the
did
Democrats
this.
were hacking. Now, if I'm hacking into your system, where's the evidence? Now, bring some proof. Give me some iota of evidence that I could work from.
Yeah.
He's bringing FBI. He's bringing in this, bringing in that. All this, for what? Why didn't he say, okay, I'm going to recuse myself from anything to do with this election because I'm running?
Well,
no.
He was everybody, and I think he should have stepped down from whatever he is. What's the
Secretary of State?
He should have stepped down from that job if he was going to run for governor.
Yeah, that's typically what happens.
And he's not the only one.
It's not a law, but over the years, it's been seen as a quote unquote gentleman's agreement, or just a ethical thing to do. As a Secretary of State who's in charge of counting the vote, you can't be in that conflict of interest position by counting your own vote. So, particularly in Georgia, where you're seeing all these steps he's taking to suppress the vote,
Yeah.
and if he can suppress it enough to get into a runoff,
Mm-hmm.
then he's going to be in charge of counting the runoff.
And he says he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So ethics, integrity, throw that out the window.
It's out the window.
They don't care about that, and neither do the people who vote for him.
You know, it's just really sad, man, that you know, I guess we have to keep struggling though, I guess.
Got to keep fighting, man.
Because we see so we see so many things that we thought was sell long time ago, and now they right back.
You know, I believe we have a federal election, Senate, House. The Senate and the House election should be supervised by the federals, not the local state. And my reason for saying that, when you see how many states are doing so many things to disenfranchise people and to swing things certain ways, what we need is an independent body that is actually supervising this. When you do that, it would have a little more integrity. Doesn't mean that they're not going to have their biases, but it should have some more integrity.
But here at 218, I just don't ever believe that we can ever get to a fair election. I mean, on no from.
You mean just for this election, or henceforth? Because we've never really had fair elections.
Well, I'm just saying.
And by the way, that's
not in the history of the country.
This one's going to really be messed up. But I'm just saying, I just don't believe we ever get to a fair election.
Well, if we never get to it, it's because we never started with it. We've never had one. So the chance that we ever get fair elections, where you have unfettered access to the polls, it's easy to register, it's easy to get your vote counted. They're counted with an effort to make it as accurate to what your intentions were. First thing in the morning, and get your clothes on and go vote. Go vote, go vote, go vote. This is the last chance that we have to retain our democracy. As flawed as it's been, we just talked about the fact that we've never had a legitimate election, and we can look at all the historic malfeasance in this country. If we don't have a democratic house in this election, we're going to have an authoritarian government from now on.
I concur.
Well, that's all the time we have. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and we catch you right down in the next block. Peace.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.